Hey everyone, welcome back to TV Guys, the show that wants to tell you the best way to defeat an evil empire isn't through rebellion, it's not through the Force, it's not through Luke Skywalker, it's through bureaucracy. I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Jeff.
And we've got Jeff back, our resident Star Wars expert, and we are going to talk about, I'm going to make a bold statement here. This is the best piece of Star Wars media ever. Films, shows, games, whatever. I'm calling it. This is the best Star Wars media.
Everybody's entitled to their own opinions, but you know.
Matt, I came prepared to say, because I when we did Andor for season 1, I kind of felt bad because I wasn't as high on it as you guys, and I was like, I'm prepared to say I liked this season a lot better than the first season. I understood it more, but I can't say it's my favorite because there's none of like the classic characters, which is, call me a basic fan, but that's what I like. I liked this, but I can't say it's the best media.
Yeah, now there are plenty of characters that kind of, if you look at like in Rogue One and then even in, I guess, Star Wars at large, there are some characters that get mentioned. There are characters that show up and stuff. So, but I get what you're saying. If you're, not as nerdy, I guess, into Star Wars, where you're like poring over all the background characters in the background of every scene or reading the visual guides like I do, you're not gonna. I get it, Brian.
Yeah, and there's some people like, well, where's the lightsabers? I know that there's such classic Star Wars things that are missing. Obviously, very little Force mentions. They have some, but no lightsaber at all. Very little space battle. There's some, but there's a lot of dialogue. But I just love this political thriller feel.
Of course, the cloak and dagger. I think that's what it does. It does really well.
Yeah. All right. So we kind of already are jumped into this with our overall impressions. I wanted to, I talked with Angie and she's like, why didn't you invite me on this podcast? So Angie, she's not like a Star Wars fan, but in watching this, because I watch it with her and I'm like, I think you'd really like this. And I actually watch it with my 13-year-old and I had to do a lot of explaining as we're going on and pausing like, now, did you know what happened in that scene? You're missing some subtext probably. But Angie's like, this actually makes me want to watch Star Wars. And I'm like, that's a win. It's a win for me.
Yeah. Anything that gets you to watch Star Wars. I mean, I agree with you. Yeah. I think, for me, I had some minor beefs with the first season, and a lot of them had to do with, I think when we talked last time, a lot of it had to do with things that there's inherent things that make Star Wars what it is, that I felt like there was a deliberate departure from those. Kind of like if you watch a Western, there are things that you expect from a Western, and there are things you expect from a Star Wars movie, TV show, game, whatever it is. And it's not lightsabers. It's not the Force. There are just certain things that make it what it is. And even in this season, I would say there was more stuff that was Star Warsy in this season, but there's some stuff where you're watching it and you're like, if I jumped into this and had no context, I'd be like, oh, what sci-fi show is this? Which, I don't want to go down a rabbit trail, but Star Wars is technically not sci-fi. It's space fantasy. We can get into that. That's we could do a whole podcast about that. But yeah, for me, it was like, there's just a couple of things that violated. And I've heard a lot of, and don't get me wrong, I love this show. I think it's great, but for me, there's things that I'm like, it just felt like a deliberate, sometimes it felt like, just even in watching interviews with Tony Gilroy, almost relished in saying he doesn't like Star Wars, and especially leading like post Rogue One, because he was involved somewhat in that with reshoots and rewriting some stuff. And anyways, I don't want to get on a giant soapbox, but.
Well, we can hit on that for a second because I know that we didn't want to talk about this show because it was terrible. I really, really hated The Acolyte. But what The Acolyte did that was bad versus what Andor did that was okay was they were being like purposefully edgy in their content. And I know that Andor has that edge as well, but I felt like it blended better. There's still a little bit of like, you're some of these relationships the Star Wars relationships are very PG. It's like, like a cartoon, like when the doors are closed, what they do, they kiss and that's it. Like,
right.
But this one has full blown attempted rape. It has torture. It has some really dark matter. And then it also has some more allusions to some more teenage or adult things that I felt like it fit a little more naturally than Acolyte did, where it just was like, hey, we just exist to try to make the fans mad because we want to do something different. So we're so perfectly different. It's bad.
Well, and it's just, I think too, there's a little bit more respect from people feel like, oh, I actually had hangups on this. I mean, obviously people can be pretty juvenile online.
Yeah.
When they encounter an opinion that's different than theirs. But in general, the people that actually like, so I was very much against the attempted rape scene. I thought that was at like core level violation of everything that Star Wars is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I felt like there was other ways you could have done that. And so I think Star Wars, what seeded it within popular culture was its accessibility from all generations. And I think when is too far, or like what point is too far? Because I definitely would not be comfortable showing my 10-year-old this show. I don't have a 10-year-old, but if I had a 10-year-old, I wouldn't. But I would absolutely, like, if we went to just a mainline, even The Mandalorian, like I think, I mean, those are some issues that I think I were some big hangups for me with it. And I get, people always try to explain to me like, oh, well, but the reason why, I'm like, no, I get all of that. Like, I get the subtext, I get all the, and I like where Bix ended up, at the end of the series. But at the same time, like, that was one of those scenes where I was like, I personally think they went too far with that, because I think maybe it's more that if, because she actually says he tried to, blank me. And I think I've heard some other people who were not as bothered by that scene that were like, maybe if she hadn't said that, it wouldn't have made it that much worse. Because I think there are going to be some people that go into this season not really maybe, showing their kids something like that and not realizing, oh my gosh, I wasn't ready to actually expose them to that.
Yeah.
Am I making sense?
No, I do understand. And I agree in part. Yeah.
Yeah.
As you guys were talking, I was trying to think of like, what else in Star Wars, any Star Wars thing goes that deep, and nothing really. The closest thing I could think of is, Anakin killing the kids, which was all off screen.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Heavily Plied. And so, like, I'm not, because I've seen the discourse online of people going, oh yeah, but like, what about this and scene and that's it. I'm like, yes, all of that, fully acknowledge all of that. But I think it's the way that it was done. And I think if you listen to like Dave Filoni, who is basically George Lucas's successor, the closest thing he had to a student, and even George Lucas talking about, very, very important. They were like, we can't leave children behind when we make Star Wars. And so I carry more Dave Filoni and George Lucas's philosophy of Star Wars, because that's actually what made it what it was.
Yeah.
And they found ways to address certain things. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, even if you watch the Clone Wars, they handle some pretty heavy stuff. But I think it's just the way that they do it. And maybe George Lucas had that Midas touch when it came to handling some of these things, but doing it in kind of a very, I mean, it was his baby that he created, so.
And I don't think, like, I know you said some people, oh, it was because she said the actual word. I'm like, I don't feel like that's what pushed it over the edge. Like, it was very purposeful direction.
It was a rough scene too, like just throwing her around.
You were supposed to feel uncomfortable. The camera stayed close and shaky in those moments.
Right.
You were there. It was invoking a very specific reaction, and I can absolutely understand deciding that route. And so I think because they chose to do that, it did evoke the reaction that you're talking about more than her acknowledging the word.
Yeah. But I do, that wasn't enough to derail me enjoying the season though. Yeah. And I think, obviously there's like little things that throughout where I'm like, there were little issues I had. I don't want to overblow, my opinion and make me like, oh, Jeff hated it. No, I didn't. I just think there's things that, and I don't even mind bringing them up, of saying like, no, like this and this were things that I had issues with, and I actually have reasons why. But I thought it was incredibly well written, and I thought Tony Gilroy did an amazing job of just wrapping up all these characters' arcs, and they just felt like real people,
Yeah, and that was another thing Angie said, because she when she watches Star Wars, because it's fantasy, it doesn't feel grounded for her, and so to watch them like, hey, we're going to a store now and we're gonna buy things. Oh, and look, this is the way that we dress, and this is how we do a wedding preparation, and there's just all these more grounded things in this series that she had a lot of appreciation for. So
yeah, well, I nerd out all over over those details too, of like them going to a store. Like I have to kind of rein myself in, because I'll start looking at everything, like the screen, the console, and the thing with what are they paying with? Like all this stuff, instead of listening to the dialogue. So yeah.
Brian was the exact same way, right?
Yeah, of course. Like, look at those door switches, man. Yeah.
Wait, they have MasterCard on this planet?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go into, because this is something that I think I really appreciate about the writing, and they did this for season 1 as well, but they would do these couple episode arcs. And I think that's where, like Marvel, for instance, to me, their TV shows go wrong, because they are expanding a 2-hour movie or an hour and a half movie into a 5-hour movie in like the 5 or 6 episodes. And then it just ends up feeling bloated, and it feels a little directionless, because that's too long to go without focus. But how they do it, of like 3 or 4 episodes is this one arc, that's a lot more focused, and you're able to trim a little bit of that fat. And you like, if you look at a couple different arcs or something like that, so for the first 3 or 4 episodes, Andor is on this planet with these guys that are fighting, and that's it. That's his arc, is I need to get off this planet. It's a really simple arc for him, but that's where he's at for 3 episodes, which to me was a little slow getting into. I'm like, Andor, get back to stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think, maybe that of him being stuck on what you find out is actually Yavin 4, which is the planet that the Rebel base is on, eventually going to be on. But it's like, I mean, maybe they could have actually wrapped that part up in 1 episode, or he gets off, and that's how that episode ends. I feel like there was a lot more they could have done, but I don't know. I mean, it was amusing, kind of. And actually what I found out is Tony Gilroy, how he came up with part of that, with like the bickering, just he called them morons, like these morons on this planet, is he was listening to I think it was his son and his nephew arguing about something, and that what they were arguing about was so ridiculous that actually kind of inspired that whole scene of them like bickering and forming, little clans.
So Jeff, I trust that you know the answer to this, because I wasn't sure. So I remember at the end of Andor season 1, there's this talk about a character I don't think we've seen, named Krieger, and that they had some information that could have saved Krieger and this other pilot's life, but they, in order to not reveal that they have a mole, they let Krieger go to his doom. Was this group? It was my impression that this was the group that was the remainder of that ambush, and that they ended up on this planet after that. Am I right in that, or am I wrong?
No. And I'm actually looking them up right now, because I actually know the name, but I'm like, I technically don't know the name, but I know it. I know it, but I don't. I'll know it. Like, that's right. That's what they're called. But no, and they actually are referenced in, if I'm not mistaken, they're referenced in Andor season 1, and they mention their leader. I think it's a woman's name. They mention their leader when Cassian lands, because he's supposed to meet this pilot named Porco, and they basically, I think it's assumed that they killed him, or they said they killed him. I can't remember. So they are the same people, but like they mentioned that their leader died or something like
Maya
that.
Pai?
Yeah. Maya Pai, I think
it.
is what they're called.
And I definitely didn't have to look that up at all. That was just somewhere in my subconscious floating around. Brian, what'd you think about this tiny specific arc?
Talking about him trapped on the planet.
Yeah, just that.
The beginning of the series in general, him trapped on the planet, and all the stuff at the wedding, both it was kind of a low point. I feel like it could have been condensed more. I was glad that the rest of the series moved on and got, I mean, in my opinion, sort of moving and got better, because I was hoping to come on here and actually like the show, which I did overall. But if the whole series was like that first arc, I probably wouldn't have, honestly.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, and Brian, I would agree with you. Lauren and I both, for me, this season didn't really hit its stride until the second arc for me, where I was like, okay, I feel like I'm in it now, with the heist, when they're on Gorman and all that stuff.
I think the Gorman stuff is the strongest stuff of the whole series, in my opinion.
But really quick, what did you guys think about, because there's some people that are torn or don't like the whole scene with like the wedding stuff, and then seeing where Mon Mothma kind of ends up at the end of that third episode, where she's kind of just,
dancing and
drunk dancing. And what did you guys think about that?
I thought that the wedding stuff was actually the best of the first arc of those first couple episodes. The wedding things ended up being the most intriguing, to the point about Mon Mothma. You felt really bad, because you see how much she hates this tradition and how much she still kind of has this resentment for her mom of putting her through it. And then she ends up doing the exact same thing to her daughter. And my heart really went out to her in that moment, that she felt that she had to do that for the rebellion and to sacrifice her own daughter's happiness. That's really tragic to me.
Yeah. One of my favorite characters in this series is Luthen. I think he's just a great character. But his exchange with her, when her childhood friend Tay, he's basically like, hey, I stuck my neck out for you and now I'm bleeding out, I'm getting divorced from my wife, and he's basically like, you owe me. And so she's talking to Luthen, and basically Luthen is implying, like, this guy needs to be dealt with. He's a liability. And she's kind of, I don't know if she's playing dumb or is almost wanting to not read between the lines of what he's saying. And basically it's just like, I'm not following what you say. And he just responds, how nice for you. And then he goes line. And it was just like, really still, I guess, like, by the end of that episode, her realizing, she's sacrificing her family for the rebellion. Okay, so really quick, Tony Gilroy or somebody on the production, maybe the editor, they were saying there was actually a scene that they had that got cut, that actually her husband, he actually comes to her and says, I've known what you've been up to this whole time. If you would have asked me, basically he's saying, like, I would have had your back. I would have joined you in what you're doing. And part of me wishes they kept it in.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it was like their final exchange as she's like already, out the door. But
yeah, because he has this speech that kind of alludes that he knows more than he lets on, and that he's a deeper thinker than we're led to believe. And then he just drops off for the second act, and then I don't think we see him again outside of like maybe one or two lines until that final thing where he's in the car with the mother, the son, or his daughter,
of the gangster dude. Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
I was like, they didn't really do anything with it. It's like, I thought that was going to come back as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But
that
in general, like, I would agree with you though, Matt. I think that the Chandrila arc, the wedding arc, I think that for me, I was the most interested in that. Honestly, I wanted to be more interested while I was watching it. I was like, okay, when are we going to get back to Cassian? But it's like, oh, he's still tied up. Oh, they're still bickering. And I'm wondering if maybe if they had kept all of that, but you know how the movie opens with him stealing that TIE Avenger, and it's like this almost like this James Bond sequence, you know, like how the James Bond movies open. What if the first episode for Cassian stuff was him infiltrating, and then it concluded with him taking off with the TIE Avenger? And I think maybe that would have actually, I know they were trying to open with a bang and do a big action sequence, but maybe if the first episode was that whole thing of him infiltrating in, him kind of sweet talking that technician, and then him ultimately escaping with the TIE fighter. But I don't know.
Yeah. There was something that was interesting in the direction. I tried to like psychoanalyze it a little bit more because I don't have a really good answer to why they did this, but it was an intriguing thing. They kept doing these off-screen deaths. So like when he's in that TIE fighter to begin with, and there's the rocket launcher guy, stormtrooper ready to shoot him, and he misses the first one. We don't see that stormtrooper die. We just see Andor shoot, and then he flies to the door. We see again, what's his name? Brasso on the planet, and he's driving on the speeder. And then we see a stormtrooper raise a gun. We never see Brasso get shot. We just see him dead. And then the same with the friend Tay, that we see him driving off. We never see him actually die, but we see him get escorted off by whatever her name was that we know is Cinta, Luthen's puppet. And so they kept doing this like, hey, these people are dying. We're not going to show them dying, but you know what's happening. And it was an interesting thing to do for this first arc, and I'm not entirely sure why they did that.
Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe it's part of it is, you know, you're following Mon Mothma's progression, whereas like Luthen's already sold out to the cause, right?
Yeah.
But Mon Mothma has been one of those people that we're kind of following her progression into this, knowing that she was anti-Palpatine, anti-Empire, and wanted to do something, but maybe it's to kind of help us kind of get into Mon's and maybe some other individuals where like people just disappear and all of a sudden you're just, I don't know.
Well, and with the deaths, maybe because this leads right, like you're saying, it goes right from Andor to Rogue One to Star Wars Episode 4, and so it's like maybe they're thinking, yeah, people know that if the characters aren't in Rogue One, they're probably going to die, and if they're in Rogue One, they're not in Star Wars, they're probably going to die. So maybe they're just yada-yadaing through it because they know that once we reach certain bench points, everyone who's not in the next part of the movie has to, or in the next movie has to be dead.
Right. Well, and I think too, in the case with Brasso's death, and you see the stormtrooper raise the blaster, and then it cuts away. The whole point of that scene is that it's a race against time, and Cassian's coming in to save everybody. You know, Bix is in dire straits. Will goes to try and he goes back, and they get in a firefight with the Imperial officer person, whatever. But it's a race against time for Cassian. Is Cassian going to be able to save them all? And I think it's just that one of the cutaway from not showing the stormtrooper shoot the blaster, I think was more just like dramatic.
Yeah.
But
speaking of Will, does he know he can go to a planet and not have to get a girlfriend there? I don't know if he knows that. Just every single planet is like, oh, you got a new girl. And so like I commented on that.
Daddy.
I think when he was on Yavin, I commented on that. And he's like, oh, that's not the same girl. I'm like, nope, different woman. Like every single place.
Yeah. Girl in every port.
That was the phrase I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we talked
the Jack Sparrow of Star Wars.
Yeah, the Jack Sparrow of Star Wars.
He has a little bit of a similar look. I don't know. All right, and whether you agree with that or not, that's moot. So we're gonna move on. Second story, because we want to talk about the Gorman Rebellion, which is, as agreed, the best part of Star Wars. People have talked a long time about how they're like, oh, every planet is an ecosystem. Why have a snow planet and a desert planet? Well, guess what? We found the French planet. That's not an ecosystem. That's it.
Yeah, it's straight up.
I thought it was the spider planet.
The French spider planet.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
They have really good food. So
yeah, I did like the setup in the first arc with Krennic, and it felt very elites hanging out in the Swiss Alps in like a lair kind of vibe, we have all these different people that influence different areas of society. And they're talking about this Calkite that they want to get from Gorman, and trying to build anti-Gorman propaganda, and like I was just like it was kind of creepy, little real world,
yeah, the conversations and closed doors.
Yeah,
I have some questions about this scene, but I don't want to interrupt. So
no, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was done.
So this is the scene where like they're in the boardroom and they're like, everyone who's not in this room cannot know, and they're talking about everything they need to build the Death Star. Right? We need the crystals from here. We need the.
Well, he never said the Death Star. He said the Emperor's energy project.
Yeah, which we know is the Death Star.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah.
But like if so. You may have to correct me on this. So they're having to do all this stuff. Like they're basically having to have this entire mission just to get the materials from this planet to build the Death Star and everything. It's such a whole ordeal. The thing is being built throughout all of Andor and all of Rogue One, and then the Death Star gets destroyed at the end of Episode 4. But then they just build another one. Is that right? Because isn't there another one in Return of the Jedi they have to destroy again?
Yeah. So I mean, if you look at how long it took, I was funny enough. I was just thinking about this the other day. Just a random thought. I was like, how long it took to build that first Death Star, and then how quickly you're like, oh, there's another Death Star. And it's bigger than the first one.
Yeah.
They would have had to have begun production on that Death Star while the other one was still being built, given how long it takes. Or maybe they found some workarounds. Or when did it start? When did they start building the second Death Star?
This is like a whole ordeal to make version 1. It seems like as soon as you make version 1, let's do it bigger and better. Like what's the time gap between A New Hope and Return of the Jedi?
Well, they use the Force. That's not how the Force works.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely I'm curious if they the first one was the guinea pig, and then they found whatever they finally cracked on how to build efficiently. They were like, okay, now let's go build the second one. And how many people were privy to that second one being built? See, I think what they did with Rogue One, they should do it again eventually and tell the story in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, how they got the plans for the second Death Star. I think that would be, dude, that'd be cool.
But that would also be another nitpick. And I know the real reason is it's not about them, but it's like, during this entire time, I mean, Paul, what is Darth Vader doing during this time? Like, isn't he supposed to be kind of in charge of the Death Star? Like, he shows up a little bit in Rogue One.
No, he's not.
So
he's there's a lot of uses for Darth Vader. I think of Darth Vader more as like a blunt instrument, where Tarkin actually, it's Krennic, Orson Krennic is in charge of the Death Star, and then you see it in Rogue One. Once he sees that it works, he basically usurps Orson Krennic's, I guess, his authority, and basically says, "I'm taking over this immediately," and he takes all the credit for it being a success. Rogue One. Yeah, and that's in Rogue One. Yeah,
but like they mentioned Tarkin, they mentioned Palpatine a lot. I don't even know if they mentioned Darth Vader, and like I don't need it. I mean, it's not about them, and these characters are great, but it's like, I was keep thinking like, okay, these characters are in play during this time. So why are we not seeing them? What are they doing? And if the same thing happened, if they did like you were saying, a whole series about the second Death Star, well, then it's like, well, what are Luke and Leia and Han Solo? They're all in play. What are they doing at this point? Because they're kind of getting to the point where there's not a lot of people left to come back for cameos even.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like Han is meeting Luke and Obi-Wan probably around the time that Andor is leaving from Yavin to go meet his contact. That's probably close to the time frame.
No, because Rogue One ends where like it ends like an hour before A New Hope begins.
Oh, yeah.
So Han Solo and Luke wouldn't even be meeting yet.
Yeah, because they were talking with Bail Organa, and he was saying in Rogue One, I'm glad I watched this today. So it's all fresh from my head. He's like, "You're a Jedi friend," and he's like, "Yes, he served me well in the Clone Wars." I'm like, "Oh, I see what you did there. You're parroting the exact line."
So Luke just found out that Tashi Station is going to have some nice power converters.
Yeah, that's it.
And he's ready to go get those.
Yeah,
that's what he's doing.
That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
No. So back to Gorman, which is to me the best part of all this, and one of the things that I love about the Gorman storyline, my favorite character arc from season 1 to when he dies is Cyril. I really love what they did with Cyril, because he's this puppet, but he has this code, and his code is the rules, and he loves the rules so much, and just like that's what spurs him on at the very beginning of Andor season 1. He's like, we can't let some ruffian just kill 2 people and get away with
principled. It. Misguided, but very principled.
Exactly. And like his when he's showing that person around, like in episode 2 of this season, and he's like, this is a place that matters. This is where bureaucracy, you can catch the things, and like, if you do it right, this is great. I'm like, man, you are the person that everyone hates at the job that they do.
Yeah.
He's the Dwight of the Star Wars.
He really is the Dwight of the Star Wars. I think that's a great analogy.
But he has this conscience that he starts seeing in Gorman, because he starts to see after that first little bit, like that whole year where he's under Deidre's thumb, and he's like, oh, I can kind of play both sides, and he's realizing the chokehold that the Empire is having on this planet, to the point when eventually, like, they land all the mining equipment, that how much has been planned all along. And I love to see how he gets to the
he's
spot
a sucker
where he loses like everything, and then he sees Andor during the middle.
Hold on, that's where you're going too quick, dude.
I'm going so
quick. That's in the next arc.
That's arc. All right, well,
that's the next arc.
Let's talk about other stuff, because
okay, I want to ask you though about Cyril. Do you guys think that, because Lauren and I talked about this, do you think that Dedra was actually into Cyril, or that she was realizing it as like, what do you think her motivations were behind everything from like season 1 when they meet, and then into season 2? I'm curious.
You go first, Brian, because I have thoughts, but I want to hear.
I only thought it's hard to read her, because she was just so intense. Yeah. She had that same like in bug-eyed, clenching every muscle in your body look on her face, like
the stinky upper lip, just
like she's constantly holding in a fart the whole series. It's just so I don't know how to read her.
And once she lets it go, man, that's gonna be the stinkiest.
Look out, Death Star.
And is the implication that she gets killed at the end?
No, that's bad. I know you're not going to edit it out, but strike that joke from the record.
No, leave it in. Leave it in, Obviously.
The crash and burn of that pun should be on display for everyone to hear.
Yeah. Yes.
So with Dedra, here's what I think with her, and something that I think is a really interesting foil, especially when you compare her to Andor and Clea. All 3 of those are orphans. And so she picked a very different path than what Andor and Clea did. And
but was it even chosen? It was kind of chosen for her.
That's true. I mean, in a way, kind of all of their paths were. Like, Clea had to be with Luthen. That was the only way that she could survive. Eventually, she did choose it for herself. He finally gave her that choice, and that was a big part of the flashbacks. But Andor also, he had some freedom, but he kind of was the middle ground of the freedom versus destiny.
Yeah.
He kept getting pulled into things that he maybe didn't want to be a part of. Mm-hmm. But Dedra, she almost didn't have a choice, but she was so desperate for the appreciation that she didn't have because of her orphan spirit that she had, that I think she did care for Cyril, but cared for the way his puppy dog love that he had for her. She needed someone that just was like, you are completely loyal to me. I can be over you. And no matter how much wrong I do, you're going to love me. And so she needed someone in her life for that. And so her work goals were also, please love me. But she actually, in her relationship, she needed to wear the pants so that she could.
Yeah. Part of me wonders if she just, because, she grew up in an Imperial Kinderblock, like basically groomed by the Empire, and rose through the ranks. She's very good at her job. Her job is actually the most important thing in her life. That's where she gets all of her identity from. And part of me is like, she liked the idea of being with somebody, and Cyril made it easy in that he was like this doting puppy dog, like you said, Matt. But ultimately when the rubber, met the road, it was almost like she just instinctively exploited her relationship with Cyril.
That's good.
For her own personal gain. And you see that, you see where I think, especially with where she ends up in this series at the end of it, I think that's evidence to kind of, I guess, reinforce what I'm saying, that ultimately, you reap what you sow, and, she leveraged Cyril, and look where that got him. And I think it's just also like a window into like how removed Imperials are from the plight of the common man, because Cyril's on the ground interacting with these people, and you start to see him have this change of heart, whereas she's the one that's just very much like no empathy towards them whatsoever. All that matters is her accomplishing her job so that she can move up the ranks.
Yeah. And part of what you're saying of her being raised in that kinder block and how good she was at her job, even though her motivation sucked, like it makes the Krennic's line a little bit more prescient, where he says pretty much like, if you're not the rebel spy, you missed your calling. Because she would have been a great rebel spy with a different path that was picked for her.
That was a really intense scene where he's like speaking calm and then suddenly yells at her.
Yeah.
Oh man, he Ben Mendelsohn just ate the scenery in that scene, but he did such a good job with it.
He was great. Well, like that was the thing too in this arc, where they have that. I loved that scene where they have that party, or like that riffraff party where they're all like the well-to-dos of Coruscant are all hanging out, and then they go look at the like Clea needs to remove that listening device from that artifact. And, Lonnie's over there helping her. But what amused me is that Krennic is a bit of a charmer. Like he was cracking jokes and people were laughing, he's giving these little quips, and, it's just, it was kind of fun to see him throughout this series have the upper hand over people. And I've even made this comment to Lauren, because I'm like, in Rogue One, you're seeing other people have the upper hand on Krennic, and him start to flounder and scramble. And but in this season, it's the reverse, where he has the upper hand of all these people. He's the highest ranking person in these meetings, and he's the one with the authority. And it was interesting to see this side of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the same actually with Luthen is that he was kind of like in this second arc, he didn't have as much agency, but we kind of see him slowly unraveling. That he goes from being so confident and so in charge and so calculated to pretty much saying to Clay is like, I'm spread too thin. Like, I can't keep track of
we're receiving too much. I can't keep track. Yeah.
And so like when Andor shows up, he scolds him, was like, this isn't the way we do it. But at the same time, Luthen's missing steps and he's falling behind, and so like there is this tension that I kept saying to like Angie and my son, that I'm like, I think Luthen might kill Bix, because Bix is having this depression, and he pretty much kind of hints at that to Andor of like, if she doesn't get better, what's going to happen? Are you going to do what needs to be done? Because she'll be a liability if she can't get her mental health back under control.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I legit thought when Luthen did a quote wellness check on Bix, I was like, dude, he's going to kill her.
Yeah.
Because Cassian was gone, and I was like, he's going to see that she's not well. She's a liability. She's the thing that's slowing Cassian down, making him too emotionally invested in other things besides the quote cause. I legit thought that, I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to kill her.
And she was stuck watching the Star Wars version of The View.
I know, dude.
That's the hell you don't wish on anyone.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Or what I thought was going to happen is he was going to put her on a mission, knowing full well that it was a suicide mission. That it was because she seemed, I don't know. I would need to see that scene again, but she seemed like she wanted to, or was she fine with hiding? I'm trying to remember. Or did she want to actually like fight the Empire at that point?
I think she was fine with hiding. I think that was when she wanted to maybe run away with Andor.
Oh, okay.
Because there was this, I think that they alluded to something that happened in the time gap between the wedding and all that, and then this year that they're
with like an officer, a young officer, or somebody that saw Bix's face, and so Cassian killed him.
Yeah. And so she was kind of combining that with the Gorst torture that the doctor had on her. And so she's just kind of between those two things, the guilt of killing this young guy and then the whatever mental issues that torture created for her, she was just a shell of herself. And
yeah.
Well, and
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. When you're talking about like him, like potentially you're talking about theorizing he could have killed her. Seeing as how angry Andor got just by knowing that he talked to her, he probably knew that like there's no way for me to spin this to make it look like an accident, that Andor is not going to go crazy. And I think he knew that if he wanted Cassian Andor to be part of the plan, that he couldn't mess with Bix, because I think he knew that if he lost Bix, he would lose Andor, which is probably what was keeping him from doing anything to her.
I was listening to some other people talk about this, and I'm just remembering it. There is also this whole thing, though, like after he sees Bix in the state that she's in, Luthen is the one that pulls the strings to get the information of where Dr. Gorst is. And then that's, how this arc ends with them going and dealing with that guy. So I think maybe it was showing that, because I think often Luthen is depicted as cold and unfeeling, and in Luthen's way, that was his way of actually the shred of compassion that he has left, the ounce of compassion that was actually, he saw the state Bix was in, he saw I think he saw the little drop bottles or whatever that she was consuming, could tell that she wasn't well, and then pulled some strings to actually, okay, I'm going to get, this is me, my olive branch to Cassian.
And I can see that, but I think that you can also have the pragmatic side of Luthen saying, if this doesn't work, nothing's going to pull her out. So
yeah, exactly. So I think, I think we could assume, given other things Luthen has done, that he was prepared to do the hard thing.
Yeah.
If this didn't pull Bix out of it.
The entire time, this whole season, even after this arc, I just keep being like, if they kill Bix, I swear, they're going to kill Bix. Bix is going to die. And I just kept saying that to them. And then she leaves. I'm like, oh, okay, well, she still might die, but she's gone.
Right. Yeah. It was nice to see how she ended up.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to Gorman, because we didn't talk about the other part of the Gorman rebellion of Andor visiting
as the fashion designer or whatever he was.
Which,
dude, he looked.
Watching Diego Luna do his best Stellan Skarsgård impression of just like emulating Luthen was really something to watch. And the fact that this guy didn't get nominated for an Emmy for this season is really
nobody did, man.
No one did.
I thought Genevieve O'Reilly for sure was going to get nominated.
Gosh, instead,
I like the Emmys probably just doesn't even look at Star Wars. Like, oh, it's Star Wars. It's not serious. They probably weren't even looking at it.
Right.
Which is not. They definitely should have, but that's my guess.
They're just like, hey, were you in the White Lotus or the Studio or the Bear? Well, then you're gonna get nominated for an acting, because like those are like
right.
God, those are all the acting awards. Was those shows?
Yeah, it's stupid. Yeah, I don't even watch any of those. So, but Saw Gerrera really quick. The stuff with Saw Gerrera, crazy Uncle Saw. The base that they're at, it says Dakar. It's D''QAR, I believe. Fun little fact. That is the rebel base or the resistance base in The Force Awakens. And so like within the lore, it's known, okay, well, Dakar was used by the rebellion before, The Force Awakens happened. And so we actually got to see some of that, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. I pointed that out. I felt so cool, like, well, nerdy too, but I felt cool to be like, guys, isn't that the thing from Force Awakens? I think that's from Force Awakens. And they're like, shut up. I'm trying to watch.
Yeah. Shut up, nerd.
I gotta watch the movies because I haven't seen Force Awakens or any of the sequels in forever.
Well, Force Awakens this December has been 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
Wild.
All right, here's another.
You should watch it for the 10-year anniversary.
Here's another bold claim
the theaters.
that I constantly have people fight me against. The best Star Wars movie is Force Awakens, in my opinion. I really loved Force Awakens.
I honestly, I really do like The Force Awakens, but I mean, I love the original trilogy,
and that's not
I love the prequels too, but
that's not counting how I felt like they really dropped the ball in the other two sequel movies, in especially cohesiveness.
Yeah, dude, don't get me started. Don't get me started on The Last Jedi.
So I'm not holding those two movies against Force Awakens. It gets unfairly lumped into the mess that was all that storylines, but
right.
So you're a sequel guy, you're an original trilogy, and my favorite is the Revenge of the Sith.
I am not a sequel guy.
Honestly, it's great.
I am not a sequel guy. I am a Force Awakens guy.
Yeah. Okay. And that's fair. Like, and I'm one of those people that if people are like, oh, my favorite is The Last Jedi, or my favorite is fill in the blank, I'm not one of those like snobby Star Wars fans. Like I think it's great. Like I want to talk about like why somebody loves it, and hear their enthusiasm. That's fun to me. So
I mean, I'll struggle if they say Phantom Menace, but any of the no.
Oh, dude, I love the Phantom Menace, dude. I will die on that hill. I don't even care.
Attack of the Clones is worse, I guess.
I love the Attack of the Clones. Who is this snobby guy? He like spits. He hates all the sequels. That they should never be existing. But also, this is a guy who's never seen Sesame Street in his life. Also, so it's like I don't know how much I trust him.
Yeah.
So his emotional capacity isn't there. He never learned.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, like Bert and Ernie is like, who's that? I mean, like, how are you alive in 2025 and asking who is Bert and Ernie?
Yeah.
Have you ever read Neil Simon's The Odd Couple? That's Bert and Ernie.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we also have the Gorman heist.
Yes.
Where Cinta meets an untimely demise because some punk snuck a blaster into the heist.
I missed a little bit, like, in watching that, I missed a little bit of like the bearded guy that was the Gorman person, like some of his motivation, because he joins the rebellion. I think he's been a part of the Gorman uprising all along.
Right.
I don't understand why he had the altercation with the younger dude on the streets.
I think it was because there's martial law, and I think I would need to watch it again, but if memory serves, there's martial law, and he was basically like probably recognized. He obviously recognized them and was like, "What are you doing here?" But he was also kind of a jerk, if I'm not mistaken, in like the meeting, like the town hall meeting they had or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. I need to watch it again.
Yeah.
But all I remember is when I saw him, I was like, "Uh-oh." Like when he showed up. So,
I always give credit to writers who create their own language for the piece of work that they're doing. And they did create a Gorman language. Very J.R.R. Tolkien, which, by the way that we're recording this on July 29th, that is the, 71st birthday of the Lord of the Rings books. They came out on July 29th, 1954.
Wow.
So,
dude.
Happy birthday.
For some reason, I thought they were older than the 50s.
Nope.
For some reason, I thought those books were written in like the 30s.
They might have been.
No, they were, well, he started writing stuff during World War I, and then slowly, it just took him a while.
Yeah. He wrote like 3 languages, and then was like, maybe I should put a narrative around these.
Yeah, dude.
He's like, Tolkien was seriously that guy. He was this huge linguist that just loved language. I'm like, I mean, go you, I guess.
Yeah, for real.
So he started, I think, with the languages and then literally built narrative for it.
So
yeah, but
okay.
What's that?
It's a deep cut that nobody but Matt will get. It's like, talk about this brand of like super specific nerd. It's kind of like Matt from season 6 of Survivor, who said in an interview, "Yeah, I'll spend my weekends learning Swedish instead of doing things." Like I feel like maybe he's the next generation's J.R. Tolkien.
Yeah, there you go.
Not me. I don't. Swedish is a dead language to me. I know a lot of people speak it, but it's dead to me.
Dead to me. Yeah, I thought that heist was really good though. It was a nail biter for sure.
Yeah,
because I was just like, oh man, I feel like something's gonna happen. But it's also interesting that like the Imperials were gonna let them do it. Basically, they were going to let him get away with it. Just Cyril was supposed to keep an eye on them or something.
Yep.
Basically, to give them a false sense of confidence.
And that's such a genius level like play, because we see some of that from Luthen, where in the first season, Luthen's like talking about how he purposely wants to stir the hornet's nest of the Empire, knowing it's going to create more oppression, but that oppression is then going to work in the favor of the rebellion, and that more people are going to rebel because they're feeling the tightness. And that's the exact opposite with Dedra and not Radagast. What is it?
Radagast, Partagast.
Partagast. There you go. Lord of the Rings in the brain, I guess. Partagast and Cyril. That it's that same thing on the opposite side. Let them make the mistake so that let them go too far. The rebellion goes too far so that the Imperials have this way to say, oh, look, we've been trying to be reasonable. They've been increasing over and over and over. And that's the whole Mon Mothma thing that she's doing in the second act, is like trying to figure out what's going on in Gorman. Why is no one supporting them? Why are they all criminals now? And it's all this idea.
She says that quote, like, are we finding criminals or creating criminals?
Yeah.
All of that I thought was really, really interesting, because there have been historically a lot of radicalized groups that were radicalized by the quote good guys, so they could have a scapegoat, they could have a fall guy. And I thought that was a really interesting detail.
It's the real world parallels of this show are another reason I love it so much. I think that's why maybe we talked at the beginning, it felt a little non-Star Warsy, because it takes a big step out of the fantasy side and it feels more familiar than.
But I would say, and I'll die on this hill, Star Wars should not remove that. That is a key element that makes Star Wars what it is. And there's also a fun factor to it. And I think my hope is, I hope that Andor was like the tone of Rogue One the whole way. And I excuse the first season of being a little bit slower, heavier, all that stuff, because I'm like, okay, well, it's so far out that Cassian, we're really being dropped into his world. But I know that's not popular opinion, and people don't at me. It's my opinion.
Well,
it's right, but it's my opinion. No, I'm kidding.
There was a hope in Rogue One, and I think that was the point, because the theme was it's leading to a new hope, and that's the last word of the movie is the word hope. And so there is that, like, there's this light in the darkness, so they had to maintain that hopefulness all throughout it, even though all the guys we watch through it die, all the characters we love, there's still a hope.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, well, Now let's get to... So you talked about how good that heist scene was, and this is another thing that Andor does really good. They build the tension of big action scenes so well.
Yeah, they're earned.
They 100%.
Yeah.
The no way out, the building of the, like, escaping the prison, that first attack on Ferrex, where there's like the pounding metal and just that constant pounding, and like, what's going on? And like, you see them on the other side, the people who are coming to arrest Andor, they're like so confused and thrown off by it. It just keeps building.
Right. Disoriented and all that.
And then we have the Gorman Rebellion, the big one, we are the Gorman, the whole world, the entire world is watching, or universe is watching, or whatever it is. Galaxy. Yeah. That's the location they're saying. So they keep doing that chanting, and then they do their song, and it's just this constant build, and they let it take a while to get to that build. And the whole time you're just also watching Andor, eyes on Dedra, like ready to take this shot and just needing to have his moment where she steps out. So many things are converging all at once. Really well done again from Andor with that rebellion.
I agree. And it was horrifying.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing, horrifying. And it actually, when I saw it, it reminded me of the Boston Massacre.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, interesting. And it very much became a shot that heard around the world kind of a thing with what happened in Gorman.
And wasn't it on the site of a previous thing? Like they had to talk about, like, Grand Moff Tarkin basically like landed a ship on top of protesters.
Yep. He landed a Star Destroyer, just belly flopped it right on top of a bunch of bunch of protesters.
So it's like the second massacre in the same location.
Yep.
And that whole scene was unflinching. And I really appreciated that because it does show the evil of the rebellion in a very real.
You mean the Empire?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. The evil of the rebellion. The Empire did nothing wrong. I'm on their side.
Yeah.
No, the weight of tyranny of the Empire.
Yeah.
And
then when those security droids show up, they're like Terminator. It was just like terrifying.
That it's so well done because those guys are so cool, but then they put you at the perspective of these rebels and like, no, that would be like, you're right, Terminator level terrifying.
Yeah. And I was amused, when Cassian grabs the remains of one of them and ultimately, becomes K2SO.
Yep.
Because of his previous run-in, it almost seems like it was like, okay, I'm sick and tired of dealing with these guys because he got arrested by one, and that's what got him thrown into the prison on Narkina 5. Yeah, dude, it's great. But
I have a lot of confidence to realize maybe I could make one of these basically death machines work for us.
Yeah. Well, they're hard to acquire, I guess, and hard to kill. Have to ram a speeder into it. But okay, let's talk about Cyril. What happens with Cyril?
Yeah. Thank you for the lead in because I was ready to jump back in. And
there you go. Teeing you up.
Because when he lost everything and he's just walking and seeing the pain of his choices and the consequence of the things that he did, and then he sees Andor and it's like something flips back inside of him, like this guy, almost like this guy started it. Like if he can put all of this doubt and problems that's circulating in his mind at that moment, he now has this lightning rod of this guy was the cause of all of this, even though that's an unfair thing to put on him. So he goes and attacks him and he's fighting and he gets the upper hand. And then this person who he's sacrificed so much to find, he's given so much of himself and the demotions he's taken and the problems that happened. And he just asks, who are you? And I honestly think if he wouldn't have died, that Cyril, that would have been enough to then push Cyril to be like, okay, even that thing, what have I been chasing? And to really do this big soul searching. I think he could have ended up on a better side, but we never see the result of that. And so it actually ends up making me feel sad for Cyril.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, this poor guy.
You pity him at least.
I do. Yeah. And maybe he wouldn't have ended up being a quote unquote good guy, but he finally was disillusioned of the propaganda that he's believed all of his life.
So my view on that is a little bit different with him because I actually felt like, given his experience on Gorman, he was there for 3 years or something like that. Yeah. Getting to know these people, and little signs would show up that he was starting to be softened towards these people a little bit. Definitely not viewing them the same way that Dedra and the Empire viewed them.
Absolutely.
And when he was standing there looking around at everything, there was a part of it was like, it's almost, I got the impression he was actually beginning to sympathize more with these people than the Empire, to the point where I was like, dude, are they going to make him join the rebellion?
Oh, yeah.
And then when he saw Cassian, because he's obsessed with that's what drove him into this whole thing. He snapped out of it, and all of a sudden he was fighting. But I mean, yeah, maybe it was because, it's like, oh, you're the whole reason why this started. But I just loved that final moment between him and Cassian, where Cassian's like, who are you? Like, he's nothing to this guy, and this guy has made Cassian everything. Yeah. It was just, that moment was great.
The writers know their good moments too, because what's the name of that episode? Who are you?
Right. Yeah.
All right. And again, that's such a strong arc. All the Gorman stuff was great. And so we get to the third arc and we have really it's the falling action, even though it's ramping up to the Rogue One.
Right.
There's a lot of falling action, especially with like the big kickoff is Mon Mothma's speech. She has to address what happened in Gorman.
Well, that was actually at the end. I thought that was at the end of. I thought that was episode 9 when he extracts her.
Yeah,
and then she's. But really quick, I actually wanted to give a little detail because it's important for, I guess, eagle-eyed Star Wars fans. I don't know, but when they pick her up and they drop her off, I think, at that safe house or something, or I can't. Maybe she doesn't go to the safe house, but they go, "Oh, we gave her to another rebel team."
Mm-hmm.
That, if you want to watch in chronological order, there's a Rebels episode, the animated show Rebels, that actually shows where she goes, and it's actually the team of the Ghost with Ezra and Hera and Kanan and all of those that actually take Mon Mothma, and she broadcasts from the Ghost to the galaxy about the Gorman massacre. Nice. And so it's actually in that episode, which I thought was really fun.
I'm at the beginning of season 3. Like I just saw end of season 2 where what's his name goes blind in that temple in the mall. Kanan. So I'm at the beginning of season 3, so I got a little.
It's episode 18, Secret Cargo
of season 3.
Yeah, so you're close.
I'm almost there.
Yeah. So I thought that was a fun little Easter egg.
I did know that her assistant guy, what's his name? Because he's in that.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I did know that was one of those. Hey, we've met this guy before.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. That's episode 9. Is the whole episode is her figuring out this speech, and so Brian, we just talked not too long ago. We just had our West Wing episode, and in the West Wing, one of the arcs is Jimmy Smits is a politician. Well, we almost got that again because he played Bail Organa originally, and he was replaced by Benjamin Bratt for this. So.
Scheduling issues, as I understand it, which is unfortunate, but
which Benjamin Bratt did fantastic.
No, I thought he was, but it's like he wasn't in it a ton.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh man, I wish they could have just worked something out with the schedule, but it is what it is.
And I know that Star Wars wouldn't be the type of show to like make a tongue-in-cheek reference, but I would have laughed if they said something like, this is my name is Santos. I mean Organa.
Yeah. Well,
so
I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it would have taken it out because it doesn't exist in this world.
Yeah, it's not that meta,
Yeah.
But
are you a West Wing guy, Jeff?
No.
Oh,
I mean, I'd seen it, but I'm not like diehard West Wing.
It's because we watched it recently. It's in my mind, and that's why I recently randomly watched the Brooklyn Nine-Nine Thanksgiving episode and it took me a minute to realize. Oh wait, both the guys are West Wing guys because both the dads it's Josh Lyman and Jimmy Smits are the 2 dads of and Jake.
Nice.
So it's like a little mini reunion there.
Yeah.
But speaking of Bail Organa, this was his most heroic episode. Really liked what they did with him in this episode. I was laughing because this is just the funniest thing to me to watch him use the Empire's bureaucracy against them. Like his whole, you've heard his words. He keeps saying emergency. Well, here's this clause that was enacted to control us, honestly. And we're going to use that clause and no one can fight the speech that Mothma was going to have.
Is that the original? Is that the clause that was put in the prequels to give Palpatine power in the first place?
No, no, but it's no, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, because it had more to do with having the floor and filibuster and being able to take over the floor again so that you are uninterrupted and your propaganda is heard and no one can stop you.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels like a very Empire thing to do just to control the message.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I thought that the whole extraction of Mon from the Senate was it was nail biting and exciting, and it was so cool. And it, obviously knowing that Cassian's there, you're like, she's in good hands.
Yeah. What's your driver's name? Cloris. Hey, Cloris. What?
Yeah.
And also the fact that she's in Star Wars and Rogue One, I had a feeling she would survive.
Yeah,
she's a really good
Force
Jedi.
Yeah. Yeah, it turns out she's the super powerful Jedi and can control the Force Ghost. Yeah, what did you guys think? I had a feeling that Lonnie was definitely going to die. I just didn't think that Luthen was going to be the one to kill him.
Freaking Luthen.
Yeah.
Come on. He goes out heroically by sacrificing himself, but only on the heels of tying up a loose end.
Yeah, it's that was pretty cold.
Yeah.
I loved the exchange between him and Dedra in his antique shop, because at first I was like, okay, does she know that he's Axis? Does she, or is she just her, like she thinks that this is one more crumb in a trail, and she's just kind of passing through. I was really curious to see how that scene was going to go.
And such good double entendre writing. Is this the real thing, or is it a replica, or is it a forgery? No one knows. The tension rises.
Yeah, and he goes, yeah, two things are still up for question, and he's referring to the two of them. Yeah. It's just like, it's great.
The writer just had, they just had a smile on their face when they're doing those, like, haha, got the line.
Yep. Yeah, no, I thought that was really good. It was interesting. There was, at the start of this season, I had theorized to Lauren, I was like, I think that it's possible that Luthen could just slip away into anonymity, or like, and ultimately die. Like, he goes off somewhere to do something, he dies, no one knows, but everything that he set in motion moved forward. But I like what they did.
It was an interesting pacing choice to that late in the season do a flashback episode, but it still ended up working to give a lot of weight to Clea's goodbye. And I really appreciated the moment she had with him, and learning more about her backstory and how he really folded her, but that she always had a knack for doing what she needed to do, and how like they really had a good partnership. And it was always whatever it needed to be, but they were really good compliments to each other.
Yeah, I agree.
And this is kind of off topic, but I was thinking when you're talking about seeing, maybe Luthen just went away. There's precedent in Survivor in Star Wars. To say that again, in Star Wars of characters going off in exile. Like, for instance, during all of this time, both Yoda and Obi-Wan are off, kind of out of the action for a while.
Right.
Was it possible that a character in this era of Survivor, or again, Star Wars, this era of Star Wars, could like not die, and then like emerge later in a show like, I don't know, Mandalorian or Skeleton Crew or something that takes place post original trilogy, and be like, oh yeah, I was in exile during this period,
and her name is Ahsoka Tano.
There is that precedent.
You could. I mean, I don't know why you would want to bring Bix back in, but Bix is still alive.
Yeah.
Her son now.
Her son, yeah, absolutely. It'd be kind of fun to see an Andor pop back up again. But I don't know. I would have to think about it, because there's a lot of people that died.
Yeah. I'm not sure if who like in this area is still alive.
You could have
like
a Cal Kestis pop up.
Oh, that would be sweet.
Cal
Kestis, I like Cal Kestis.
I've been playing through actually is the sequel Jedi Survivor?
Jedi Survivor, yeah.
So I was playing through that, and I'm on Jeddah right now, and I'm playing through it, and then I'm like, Jeddah, I know where that's at.
Dude, that story is so good.
Yeah.
That game is fantastic. So
it is.
Yeah. For me too, I loved seeing the Yavin 4 getting just slowly growing. And especially by this season, or this last arc, it's pretty close to the way we see it in Rogue One. And it was fun seeing the extraction of Clea, where they Cassian, K2SO, and Melshi, who he was somebody that I nerded out over when he showed up in the prison in season 1, because I knew him from Rogue One. And so I was like, oh my gosh, it's Melshi. And Lauren's like, who? What? Like, Melshi. So
I didn't remember he was in Rogue One. Someone pointed out when he pops up in Yavin is like, oh, it's me. And I'm like, the way they're framing this, it seems like it's an important person. And I looked it up. I'm like, oh, I forgot he was in the prison there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then I think especially like seeing all of there's some minor characters that are in those last 3 episodes that were in Rogue One as well. Some of the aliens, if you look in the background, and then there's a couple of different rebel intelligence people that are in Rogue One as well. That I was like, oh, I know that guy too. And so it's really nice to see that. There's just I appreciated the awareness of being like, okay, we got to have this thing tie into Rogue One. So it's important that we have some like similar characters that are going to pop up more prominently in that movie. But if you look, you'll see them. And I really appreciated that.
I was surprised about how early Luthen died, because that was episode 10. And I was like, wait, we still got all of 10 and 11 and 12 left.
Yeah.
We're killing Luthen already. But it makes sense, because the beginning of episode 10 kicks off the final like urgency to push us out. Because 9 was all about reaction with Gorman, Mon Mothma's speech, getting her out, she's gone. And now it's, by the way, there's this Death Star, and Lonnie dies, unfortunately. Luthen dies. Kleia is the only one who knows about it. And so now it's just like, Kleia has to survive, or her message has to survive. And I was like, are they going to kill her too? And is it going to be the same thing as like everyone who has this Death Star message has to die all the way up through Rogue One until it finally gets in the hands of Leia? And then that's where it lands. And so I was glad that Kleia ended up surviving, because she deserved a chance at happiness and a chance at freedom.
Yeah. Yep.
But as we talked about with the Dedra and the Krennic scene about the Death Star, and this is one thing we didn't talk too much about, is that the fall of Dedra Miro was in this arc as well, and it was pretty satisfying watching that fall apart. And I've got Radagast in my head. Partagast. Thank you. Gosh, I'm gonna need to point to you, and then you're just gonna tell me the name every time I have to say it. To see how like he takes his own life, and that's actually one of the strongest revisits from season 1 is that manifesto, where it's talking about how tyranny's unnatural because it requires constant effort. And like you see that just this guy, Partagast, has obviously had years of trust and faith from Palpatine, and like he's had these results, and it's one error that makes him have to kill himself. And how thin the margin of error is.
Yep.
Anyone who has to control others, and like there's no freedom in that for them. And so it's like, you morons, stop being evil. The pursuit of power costs so much.
Yeah. And it's like,
it's not even really power at all.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, it just makes you wonder, like, with any of these characters, like Partagast or, Dedra Mira or, anybody else, what would have happened if they would have just defected to the rebellion? The amount of effort, that their expertise, how savvy they are at all these different things. It makes you wonder if the Empire actually would have crumbled quicker if some of these people had gotten over their fear and actually just,
But then would the rebellion trust that that's actually legitimate?
Exactly. I mean, I think that's that question is anybody who's ever defected. I think that's, especially if they're in a high position, people question that.
Yeah.
Where they're like, how legit is this guy?
Exactly. And
let's not give you all of our secrets just yet.
Yeah.
And the Empire is so vast and so controlling and so in charge of the message that it feels like it is a David Goliath situation. And it feels like, well, do I just throw my life away, or do I make the best of the situation I'm in. And how many people in the world have been complicit to terrible regimes because they're just trying to make the best out of the situation that they're in. And sometimes you give them grace, and sometimes you're like, well, you didn't stand up and say this isn't good enough.
Well, and how did Palpatine get this empire to be so loyal to him? Is that kind of, it's like I know in the prequels he starts up the empire, but like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's another show you could do, is like, how does the empire get built?
Yeah, I think that actually is worth exploring. I think in general, I think it was, I mean, this has been a plan of Palpatine's for a long time. Yeah. And I know that at this point, Palpatine has become a bit of an elusive figure. He's sort of like the boogeyman, where he's not because he used to speak in the center of the Senate, and you saw that throughout the prequels. And then even when he became Emperor Palpatine, he spoke in front of the Senate, and he's like the first galactic empire and all that. And, but bit by bit, he started to become more and more reclusive. And it's my understanding that at this point, he no longer even, resides within the Senate. Like, he doesn't even sit in that center column anymore at all. He always just has somebody come speak on his behalf. And so I think he's created a system where everybody's clamoring over each other to try and, leverage for position and all that kind of stuff, to the point where he doesn't even need to do anything. But yeah, how did it get to that point? It's a good question.
See, that I have that same question about the First Order, because there's too many missing blocks in between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens. I'm like, how did like this new system of government that they installed end up becoming the rebellion? How is the majority the rebellion, and how is the First Order as powerful as it is? So I'd be interested.
Well, the First Order, I know, they borrowed a little bit from an expanded universe, which is like the Imperial Remnant. So it's, the Empire was so efficient that they could operate in their own cells, basically. And so you obviously you see that in The Mandalorian as well, with Moff Gideon and stuff like that. But that's kind of a precursor to the First Order. And they went into the unknown reaches of the galaxy, amassed power, bided their time, So it's my understanding there was a significant enough chunk of the Empire that went into the unknown regions of space and basically just recovered from the downfall of the Empire. And
so Palpatine did a really good job with this first go around. There's enough for leftovers. He's put all the Imperial guys in big Tupperware, stuck it in the fridge, and marked it, and then 20 years later pulled it out. They're still good.
Yep.
Perfect analogy. No notes. Moving on.
There we go. Way to go.
All right. Bix and Andor's relationship is one of the last things that we haven't hit on. This, honestly, I teared up. When we see at the end, it's such a great final sequence when Andor's walking through Yavin, and we see where did everyone end up, and we're like, yeah, Dietrich's in that same prison. That's so cool. Oh, the Perrin is with that woman. Okay, whatever. Like all the different where everyone ended up, and then we get to the end of that. They fly away, and then we finally see where Bix was, and she has a kid, and I'm like,
yeah,
no, like okay, it's great, it's good for her. I'm glad, but like, and I understand the metaphor, and I understand that what Andor had to give up was for the next generation, and the cost so that his kid would know freedom was the cost of Cassian's life.
Well, and I've often thought about too, like, what do you think Cassian's response would have been if he had found out that she was with child and that she did have a kid? I'm of the mind that I don't know that he would have left. I think he would have been like, no, I'm securing my child's future. it might have actually given him a greater sense of purpose. Who knows?
I'm not sure. And I would hate if he ended walking away from that, because he did have moments of conscience of walking away. And he says in Rogue One, he says to Jyn, like, you're not the only one who's lost everything. And so the degree of desperation of, I don't have anything left I'm fighting for apart from the good of everyone else. So I don't know if he would have. I like to think he wouldn't. I like to think he's a better man than maybe he is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's easy to be the best person when it's all in hypotheticals.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I thought that this tied in really well to Rogue One, though, how it ends.
Yeah.
Very much feels very much in the same spirit as the way that Rogue One ties into A New Hope.
Yeah, these last 3 episodes into Rogue One, into A New Hope, is like, you can have one 8-hour session, just one full story together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And it makes me appreciate Andor and Rogue One, and it makes me appreciate Rogue One and A New Hope more. Because one of the things that we see pop up through all of this in season 2 is we see the sacrifices made, and not always like the big sacrifices that go to the overall plot, but these small ones. And again, back to that manifesto, every act of rebellion pushes the line forward. So whether that's the clerk at the hotel throwing the grenade, or whether it was on the grain planet where Brasso died to save Bix, or
Mina Rao,
any of these things, they all are pushing that rebellion forward. And so it actually strengthens, to me, it strengthens Luke's story to be the one. And I'm sorry, I'm going to throw a Bible verse. We're all Christians. I'm going to throw a Bible verse because the Bible says that, like, one person will plant a seed, another person will water the seed, but then God gives the increase of the seed. So it's like, there are people in this universe that are planting these seeds of rebellion. There's people that are watering these seeds of their rebellion. But then Luke gets to come along, and he gets to finally be the one, after all these years he doesn't even realize has been growing this seed, and he gets to be the one who harvests. And that's, we don't have a lot to talk about the Force, but I see the Force working throughout Andor.
Oh, absolutely. And I think too, there's a lot of jokes about stormtroopers being bad shots and stuff, but in this show, they're not really bad shots. And so for me, it's always been this thing of like, it's the will of the Force. It's not even like they're the ones that are, I guess, the tips of the spear of this thing, Han, Luke, Leia. And it's kind of funny though, when you think about it, going through Andor, going through Rogue One, seeing what it took to get the Death Star plans to the rebellion, and then at the end of A New Hope, Han and Luke get awarded for all the effort of all these other people. It's just, and obviously, like, it's worth noting that, Luke is the one that fired the shot that blew up the Death Star. But there's so many people that were propping them up through history. It's just, it's cool to have that kind of macro vision of everything now, micro and macro, I guess. Yeah.
Well, and also, like, when I was a kid watching Star Wars and they had the plans, in my mind, Leia just like went to Empire headquarters and saw a notebook that said the Death Star plans and grabbed it off the desk and left, and that was it. It's a little more elaborate than that.
Yeah.
Well, many Bothan spies died, which I don't know which Bothan spies these were, but apparently they died to provide those plans.
Yeah, for the Death Star 2, not the Death Star 1.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a great little bit, though, when Lonnie comes to Luthen and you just feel the weight of this knowledge about the Death Star, and you feel it, and you're just like, eyes everywhere. Is there somebody listening on this conversation? Like, you just feel the paranoia. And then obviously we see what Luthen does to Lonnie,
Can you imagine that, like, real world, like, you being one of a handful of people who knows about something, like, like, let's say we find out there's nuclear warheads active, buried beneath every major U.S. city, ready to go off. And at any point, someone's gonna push the button, and you know that. The weight of that knowledge would freak you. Like, who do I tell? I've got to get this in the right hands because I can't stop it. I can't do anything about it. There are people who can. We need to get them that information.
Yeah. I will say I'm at least happy that Lonnie was good enough at his job that he never got caught. I mean, obviously they were tipped off to him, but like I just assumed that Lonnie was going to die at the hands of the Empire or something.
Yeah.
And I did not think that Luthen was going to kill him. Just like, geez.
No, because there's that other guy. Who's the other ISB person? Like, because there's Lonnie, and then there's Dedra, and then there's the one who really doesn't like Dedra but does like Lonnie. Do you remember who that is?
Oh, the guy that used to be. It was actually Dedra's assistant in the first season.
Oh yeah.
He moved up the pecking order, I think. Is he the guy at the end when K2SO picks him up like a rag doll and uses him as a human shield?
He might have been, which was awesome. K2 is once again the MVP. Love like every single thing that he does. Are you with us? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, loved K2. He's so good. But that's Alan Tudyk for you. No one can voice a robot like Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, there's Attendant Hirt. This guy. Is this who you're referring to?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, Attendant Hirt, and then he becomes, I don't know, Supervisor Hirt or something like that in the second season.
I think he's such an interesting character because he's on the wrong side, but he seems like he could be a stand-up guy if he worked for the right people. You know, because he talks about, he's like, I'm not here. Like, that's one thing he has against Dedra. He's like,
oh yeah, she's like, you can have the glory, and he's like, I don't want the glory.
Exactly. Like, I believe enough in the system, I guess. Or maybe he's afraid. Maybe he doesn't want the glory because he doesn't want the responsibility and the, punishment that comes with failing that responsibility. Easily could be that.
Yeah.
All right, we talked about a lot of different things. There was a number of things we left off, but I just want to open for just a last thing here of some character moments or best character things. Was there any one or moment that we didn't talk about that you wanted to make sure we bring up?
Yeah, I know there's so much in the show.
Yeah. We barely mentioned Saw and Willman and all that stuff.
I know, yeah. I'm trying to think, honestly. I honestly, nothing comes to mind right now.
Just in general, I think Luthen is my favorite character.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah. I like, and that's part of this whole espionage spy thing, is the gray areas that people have, and like the things he had to do in order to further the rebellion cause. Like, would you agree with all his decisions? No way. Would you say they were necessary? I don't know. And it's hard because, like, if we're in that position, there's such gray area, but you can't ever fall so far that you're fighting the Empire with the tools of the Empire. You can never fight evil with evil, and so it's hard to figure out where's that line.
Well, and then it raises the question, because that's what Luthen says in his big monologue speech in the first season. He says, I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemies to defeat them. And so you go, okay, well, is Luthen the far end of this pendulum? Whereas, maybe Mon Mothma was more of playing it safe, so maybe he's the opposite end of the spectrum, and maybe Cassian's somewhere in between. Maybe the whole of the rebellion is somewhere in between, and they needed the tension of those two extremes to even create the rebellion. It just was cool to see the rebellion function on its own. It's like Luthen just kept funneling resources and funneling people, and those people would meet each other, and he was very aware that he was hated by, akin to Saw Gerrera, who's super paranoid. He's like, they're like, you're on Jedha. He's like, you'll never find me. It's like, he's on Jedha. It's like, and it's he's just like so paranoid. But yeah, it was just cool to see the rebellion and knowing that, like, Luthen, and I actually really liked Clea as well. I thought she was a really cool character.
Yeah. I think Clea's a more brighter, like the willingness to do what Luthen would do, but she has more wherewithal of knowing. Like what first really turned me on to Clea being a great character was her and Lonnie in that room when she was removing the listening device, and like how hard that was for her to get that, and like blood coming out of her hands just to be able to keep them safe, and like what she's already like, and that just spoke to other things that she's done that we just didn't see on screen. The willingness that she would go to, and that was she put her own self in the crosshairs for that.
Right. When I thought it was great that she ended up on Yavin, and she was able to look around at all of that they did. First she thought everybody hated her and all that stuff, and but then like walking around and seeing just everything that they had built, her and Luthen had built, like it was great.
Yeah. So Brian, you said your favorite character is Luthen. I don't know what my favorite character is, because there's so many good characters. Do you have a favorite, Jeff?
Well, one of my favorites in Rogue One was Cassian, so that has not changed. I really like his character. And then, I mean, all of them. Luthen was great. Clea is great. Mon Mothma was amazing. I mean, even like love to hate her, Dedra Meero was just really well written, and I don't know. I thought it was all great.
Yeah. And like I said, my favorite arc was Cyril, or as my son purposefully would call him Cereal. Constantly called him Cereal, and I'm like,
I mean, he eats a lot of cereal, so
he does, and that was one of the reasons. We didn't even talk about the thing with Cyril and his mom, and like,
Edie.
Oh my gosh,
dude. I loved when the Gormans were listening in, when he's like, and they're like, that mom is terrifying. Like one of them says, like, that mom is terrifying or something. It's great. I'm like, yep.
And they're having the dinner, and he's just laying in the other room, like a prepubescent kid, just laying there, like, my mom's embarrassing me.
Oh yeah, dude.
The most I liked of Dedra was her telling off the mom, like, I actually said to Elijah, I'm like, Elijah, feel free to marry a woman who is not afraid to stand up for you like that.
Yeah.
Maybe
Are you saying that he would? Are you saying that he would need someone to protect him from Angie?
Yeah, it's true. That's why I didn't want her to be in this, because I wanted to be able to tell you guys that anecdote without her hitting me.
She's going to listen, and she's
going to... Is she going to listen to this one?
No, she doesn't listen to these anymore. But for everyone out there, in case this ever comes back to Angie, that was all a joke. I cannot get the views expressed in this podcast do not accurately reflect
You're sleeping on the couch, man. Look out.
So basically, you're saying the views that you said out loud are not the views of you.
Correct. Podcast Matt is not responsible, or regular Matt is not responsible for the things Podcast Matt says.
Otherwise, just slowly
what I can do is
himself a grave.
I can make sure
one shovel at a time.
I can make sure that this is in the little best of clip, which is only going to be a few minutes long, and I can send that to Angie.
Oh, can you?
Oh, man. Yes.
All right. Well, I thought we were friends, so I guess we're gonna have to move on. And
podcast's over forever.
Podcast done.
This is the last episode.
I'm going back to Terrence. Trivia from last week. Brian, take us away.
So last week we talked about Squid Game seasons 2 and 3, and the question was, the creator of the show, and again, sorry if this is bad pronunciation, Hwang Dong-yuk, had a cameo as who? And that would be a caricaturist in the final episode of Squid Game.
I want to say, even though you probably pronounced it close to correct, there is still something inherently racist about you just saying his name. I'm just going to say that. Say it again. Say it again. What's his name?
Hwang Dong-yuk.
How
I did a whole accidental or racist impression of one of the characters in that episode. So
you did. And they're like, oh yeah, we're white. This isn't okay. All right.
And even though I haven't yet edited that episode as we're recording this, I'm going to leave it in. I know that.
That's a choice, Brian. The internet does not forget.
True. But I'll risk it. All right. So, Jeff, you said you had some trivia for Andor season 2.
I got a piece of trivia. All right. So, what is the name of the location that Cassian is heading to at the end of the final episode of season 2 of Andor?
Las Vegas.
And I'll leave it there.
That's where he's going.
It's in more than one thing. That's your clue. So.
And that's
there we go. Yeah.
Well, Jeff, it's been great having you back. I always appreciate having you on.
I know. Any opportunity to talk about Star Wars,
Yeah. I mean,
it's good for me.
I get it. I'm that way with Back to the Future.
Yes, you are.
Brian's that way about Muppets.
I am, and I just found a podcast about Muppets that I'm slowly going through. That they started 5 years ago, and they're still going through. So I got a ways to catch up.
I'm also that way about like Disney parks. Honestly,
yes,
okay, I'm not going to start another podcast. All right. I've done one podcast, then I've done this one. And I'm at that point in time where I started my second podcast when I was having my first podcast. I'm already at that point now. So if I wanted to repeat history, I would start another podcast. I'm not doing that. But if I did, it would probably be about Disney parks. I'm going to be honest.
What we need to do is get someone else to do a podcast about Disney parks. That way you can come on as a guest.
I would love to. If you have a podcast like that or know someone who has that, I would love to go on. Angie and I were actually talking about something from when she was younger, and she's like, "Oh, I was at because Universal Studios used to have Nickelodeon Studios in the actual park."
Yeah.
And so actually on break, Kenan Thompson has talked about how they would go out into the park and go on rides when they're on break, and then they'd come back and then go record stuff. And so she was remembering when they went to Nickelodeon Studios. I'm like, well, that's actually at Universal Studios. She's like, I was in the same park. And so then I was telling her all about how the park, I'm telling her directions, how to get to that from the entrance and what the park used to look like back then. She's like, how do you remember all this? I'm like, I just care a lot, I guess.
Yeah.
I know that's not Disney, but
you should. Okay. Yeah. Disney Park Podcasts, reach out to us. Matt will come on your podcast.
I will absolutely come on your podcast, and I will not leave until I've done 5 episodes.
You're I will outstay my welcome. Yeah, but you'll have a great time. Yeah.
Someone slowly is putting the phone down after that. I was going to call, but I don't want that anymore.
I've never been on a podcast outside of this one, so I've never done a podcast episode that I didn't have to edit.
Wow. Well, so it's easier. I'll tell you that.
I bet it is.
Yeah.
Jeff's gonna hit the close button and be like, wash my hands of this. I'm done.
Yep. I've done that. I paid my dues. Yeah.
Well, that's it. Next time we are talking about, is it next time Survivor?
Yep. Survivor season 7.
I'm so excited. That's such a good season of Survivor. I'm in the middle of it, and I'm like, this was actually really great. So it's going to be a good episode.
Yeah. I haven't started yet, but I'll binge through it real quickly. And we're getting to the era of Survivor where I remember a lot of it.
Look at you. Survivor teen years. Yeah. All right. Well, until next time, I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Jeff. See you on the next Star Wars episode.
Yeah.
And we're reminding you to stay tuned, and may the Force be with you.